Hi, this is Sean D'Souza, and you're listening to the 3-Month Vacation Podcast. This podcast isn't some magic trick about how to work less. Instead, it's about how to really enjoy the work that you do and to enjoy your vacation time. Hi, it's Sean D'Souza, and you're listening to the 3-Month Vacation. If you head down to the South Island of New Zealand, you'll run into a little French town called Akaroa. And the story goes all the way back to 1838. There was this commander of this French whaling ship called Cacalot, and apparently he bought some land around that area. And so the French colonists decide, okay, we're going to leave France, we're going to head to it wasn't called New Zealand, but they were headed to New Zealand. They were headed to the new colonies. So the French did get to Akaroa, but they found that when they got there, a treaty had been signed between the Maori and the British. The whole of New Zealand was officially a British colony. We don't know how true this is, but apparently they arrived 1 week late. I don't know what you'd make of the event. Would you consider it funny or just bad luck? But when you're conducting an offline workshop, when you're conducting an offline event, being late with some elements can make a big difference to how many people sign up to future events. And one of those things that you have to be on time for, that you simply cannot be late for, is getting testimonials. If you've been listening in sequence, you know this is the second episode on how to take your event offline. Instead of just sitting behind your computer screen, blogging, waiting for something to happen. Well, how do you go offline? How do you have an event offline? This is the second episode. Go and listen to the first one or just follow along in the second one. In this second episode, we're going to talk about something that people miss out on a lot, and that is getting testimonials. So they often don't get testimonials. It causes a big problem down the road. The second thing that we're going to talk about is how to get your clients to come back. And the third thing is a time frame that you should expect. A lot of people say, okay, we'll do this thing, and then they don't know what time frame to expect. How quickly should they be getting the clients? What's supposed to happen in real life? That's what we're going to cover in this episode. But let's start out with the first topic, which is about getting testimonials. I never knew this, but a lot of people are plainly terrified, or at least very reluctant to ask for a testimonial. They hope that somehow the client will come back and then give them that testimonial without them specifically asking for it or giving a structure to it. And that's not how it works. In fact, that is the reason why you don't get testimonials. One of the biggest problems that you have with testimonials is that you can't wait for the event to get over, a week to pass, and then ask for a testimonial. That concept of the French being just 1 week late, well, that cost them the entire colony of New Zealand. And something similar plays out in real life. If you wait, you're just going to miss out on the testimonial. You're going to miss out on the quality of the testimonial. You're going to miss out on the experience that the client can describe. And this is simply because the clients have got too busy. It's also harder for the client to gush as much as they once could have, simply because they've moved on. Getting a testimonial for an event is almost as important as the event itself. For one, when a client gives you a testimonial, they are ratifying that they have made the right decision. They are saying, we made a good decision to attend the event. However, it gives you, that's the person holding the event, it gives you a chance to make sure that you never have to struggle to fill seats in future. which is why you should get a testimonial during the breaks. Breaks? What breaks? You've got to have breaks in your event. If you don't have breaks in your event, there's no way to stop the juggernaut from rolling on. Then all you have is the starting and the ending, and that's it. There's no scope and there's no space to get that testimonial. See, when you have any kind of information event or workshop or any kind of training, what you as a trainer want to do is you want to go from one end to the other. You want to teach them how to get to the end point. But information is very tiring. And what happens is, as they get a new piece of information, small as it might be to you, it's a big chunk to them. They don't exactly get it. They're trying to figure it out. And then what happens is the brain starts to get tired. And you can't see it as the trainer because you're so involved in what you're doing, but people are struggling in their own brains. And so when you have that break, you're helping your client reach that destination. The destination that they want to get to, the destination that you want to get to. So the first step that you have to take in any information event, whether you get a testimonial of the breaks or not, is to have breaks. That is critical. But now that you have the breaks, how about getting a testimonial? No matter how long the event, whether it be a short one for an hour or 2 days, 3 days, 5 days, 7 days, whatever, you're looking to your audience to give you that feedback, to give you that energy. And you can see the smiles on your face, you can see the nods. And what you're looking for are those nods and those smiles. And then eventually a client will come up to you and say, "Oh, we're having a really great time." It'll be very evident who's having the most fun. And you can usually go up to them and ask them if you can shoot a quick video. And even as you're listening to this, you're thinking, oh my God, I have to have breaks, then I have to shoot a testimonial, and I have to make a video. You don't have to make a video. It could be an audio, it could be anything. But if you can get a video, that's the best thing. Why? Because now you have the video, you can transcribe it into text, and of course, you can strip it down to the audio. So the video is the best thing. And so let's just go down this path of shooting a video. You'll have to know in advance where you can shoot the video. Ideally, someplace that is slightly quieter and away from the scene of the action. I tend to use another room or another area close enough. Always, it needs to be away from the group. Ideally, get 2 or 3 people to give testimonials in about 10 minutes. And you can get these quick testimonials that can be used in a video. What's happening is that if there are 3 people giving testimonials, one person is sitting down giving the testimonial, the other 2 are watching how that testimonial is being given. So it becomes much easier. It's going to tire you out because it's your break as well as their break, and you're going and going and going. But this is it. This is the crux of having to get a testimonial while the event is going on. Then you can take the video, then you can transcribe it, then you can do something later. It's not going to be fun and games for you, not at the beginning, not in the middle, not at the end, but you can relax later. But what are the questions that you're going to use? How are you going to get a testimonial? And this is where the brain audit comes to the rescue. The brain audit gives you typical questions to ask a client, and when you use the format of the 6 questions, you get a client experience. This is not another sugar-coated testimonial. It's an experience. It also gives you that clear pathway to follow when asking the testimonial. You rarely have time to think of what to ask because you have to get back to the event. The goal is to get at least 2 or 3, maybe 5, 6 testimonials. And if you can't get them in the breaks, then maybe ask people to stick around after the event and give you a testimonial. And most of the time, they'll say yes. If they've had a good time, they're going to say yes. Despite all your best intentions, it's not always possible to get testimonials during the event. If that's the case, ask people if you can call them on Skype, and ideally on Skype video, and get a testimonial. Most people will agree, and it serves as a form of an appointment. You're saying, I'm going to call you, I'm going to ask for the testimonial on video, and people get ready for that, and they're more than happy to give you the testimonial. But you have to be proactive. You have to get this act together, because once people leave, if they don't make a commitment to speak later, then the task of getting a testimonial gets very hard, very, very hard. And as the days go by, it becomes almost impossible. You're eager to recover after the event, so you are tired because you put in all this energy into the event, and they're keen to go back to their own lives. This means that you've lost the one thing that's incredibly important to the business: third-party proof. Getting a testimonial needs to be almost as important as conducting the event itself. At Psychotactics, we've goofed not once or twice, but often enough. It's quite tiring getting an event off the ground. And knowing which clients are getting the most value of that event is quite a tricky business. You have to be monitoring what you're saying, what you're teaching, at the same time looking at which heads are nodding, who's smiling, who's kind of ready to give the testimonial. This is almost like an interactive thing, and ideally if you've got someone else watching at the same time as you, that's even better, because you as the presenter, you're going to be focused on one thing. So having a second person there enables you to figure out who seems to be most eager to give a testimonial. However, there are times when it's too much to do on the day itself. For instance, we hosted some really popular meetups, and they were 3 hours long, and some of them went on for 6 and 7 hours. It was very difficult to break away from the fun and the chatter to record a testimonial. It does feel a lot like work, and it takes an iron resolve to keep working when everyone is having a great time. If it's really hard to break away, simply ask the group to write each of their names on a piece of paper and to give it to you. Now you have your name, so you can then call them, you can do a video chat, you can record that video chat, and now you have your testimonial. And this is very important. Testimonials are how future prospects decide to sign up with you. So getting those testimonials early is critical to your offline business, to your online business as well. If you're going to have an event, you need to get the testimonials. It's very critical. One of the reasons why we are able to sell our products and services this quickly at Psychotactics is because clients read the testimonials. In fact, we have so many testimonials and such long testimonials that their experiences. And for instance, in the article writing course, we put them into a book, and the book is 70 pages long. Now you tell me that you want to read a sales page after reading a book that has 70 pages of testimonials. The problem is that we're trying to sell, and clients are trying to figure out, what is this thing all about? Is it a waste of my time? Is it a waste of my money? And the testimonials give them a feel of what the other person has experienced. Once they're able to experience that, they don't need to read your sales page, and they don't need all this funnel system, and they don't need to be pushed in, cajoled into buying your product or service, or in this case, your next event. So having the testimonials in place becomes a very critical point. And using those 6 questions that are in the brain audit, that's very important, because people speak at about 3 words a second, which is 180 words a minute. And that's what, 540 words in 3 minutes? Or if they keep speaking for 6 minutes or 7 minutes, that's over 1,000 words. When was the last time that you got a 1,000-word testimonial and you got it in 6 minutes? So do this testimonial thing. If you can't do video, that's okay. Do the audio. If you can't do audio, get them to write on a piece of paper and say, okay, it's fine to call me later. But get that commitment before they leave the room. Ideally, shoot the testimonial in the breaks after the event, but sometimes it's too much. Especially, this advice is about going offline for the first time, and there is so much to consider. There's so much chaos in place. So it's fine if you don't get everything done, but make sure that you get the commitment and you follow up very quickly. The longer you take after the event, the more the memory is going to be not that great. So make sure that you get in very quickly. So this is the end of the first part, which is getting the testimonial. The second part is how to get the clients to come back. So let's talk about that. How do you get clients to come back? Let's say you're a dolphin trainer and now you're getting the dolphin to learn a new trick. So the dolphin is doing a trick in the pool and you have to reward the dolphin, but would the size of the reward matter? There is this wonderful book called Don't Shoot the Dog by Karen Pryor, and it's not about people, but it works with people as well. And it talks about how a dolphin would learn and execute a trick. However, there's a story where the trainer decides to give the dolphin a smaller fish as a reward. You think the dolphin wouldn't bother too much considering a fish is a fish is a fish. However, dolphins do care about the specifics too, just like humans. Which is why, if you get a client to come to your event, you're going to have to figure out how to keep them coming back. The dolphin will keep doing whatever you want them to do as long as the reward is the right size, and the clients will come back if the reward is also the right size. That they get that result that they're looking for, then they're going to come back. You've probably heard that getting a new client is the most expensive part of a business, right? Even if you don't spend any money on advertising or publicity, getting a client to trust you and to attend your event, that's a huge task. And your mission should be to get the client to come back repeatedly if possible. When a client trusts you, they're likely to sign up at higher prices. And they don't need this long sales page. They don't need this endless promotional messaging. They just need the reward. They just need the result, and just needs to be big enough for them. There are many reasons why clients don't return, but one of the most significant responsibilities lies with you. One of the biggest reasons why clients come to information-based events is, ironically, not to get information. We may believe that they come to get more knowledge, but YouTube is full of information, so is Google, Bing. Their inbox is loaded with information. The reason they're coming to you is to get less confusion, less information, and more skill. Strangely, the information you're imparting can only be less confusing if you cover only what's required. When we started out in psychotactics, we had no idea how to get the client back to an event. We got lucky because we sat down and we did some planning in advance. I'm not sure why we had the audacity, but we thought if we can have them come to one event, maybe they'll sign up for another 12 on the back of that. That was audacious, but it worked. I talked about follow-up sessions at the event and how for $75 a month clients could be part of a group, and that we would meet every month, and that was approximately the gist of how we went about stuff. But why did clients sign up for the follow-up sessions? The fish was the right size the first time they showed up. That presentation, as amateur as it might have been, and I think it was pretty amateur back then, it got them to a result, and then they were keen to come back. If you're hosting an event, clients are eager to get a similar sort of reward. If you are teaching them how to do a pose in yoga, please don't spend the evening showing them 10,000 poses. Show them one or two and get them to a result. If you're having a cooking class, don't run around like a headless chicken trying to get 5 or 6 dishes going. Make them confident with a single dish, maybe 2 dishes. Get that confidence up. Clients aren't looking for a bucket load of fish. They just want one, provided it's the right size. When we did our first event, we didn't expect anyone to sign up for future events. All the same, we put that strategy together. We were very surprised, pleasantly surprised, when about 10 people signed up and consistently showed up over the year to follow. Some of those clients then attended higher priced workshops, even ended up consulting with us. And all of this information is very important for those of us who have grown up believing that everything can be done online. The internet is a great tool to market our business, but just starting up a blog and hoping that people will visit is a strategy that may quickly get you disappointed. The core of today's world is a factor of overwhelm, but it's also a sense of loneliness, which is why offline workshops or events should deliver not just a factor of skill, but a chance to meet others who are on a similar journey. So what can you do from this point on? The first thing that you need to do is to work out how you can get the client that reward that he or she is seeking. If they come to an event that promises that they'll learn how to make mozzarella, then all of them should be walking out with that mozzarella making skill. Once you have them at the event and possibly get a few testimonials, you need to do them the courtesy of asking them to come back repeatedly. Even if you're hosting an event in a different country, there's a high likelihood the clients will come back to future events. Over 50% of the attendees at any Psychotactics event have met with us before or have been through some of our courses or events. So we invite them back to another event. And they come happily because they enjoy the experience. If you're going to do an event, plan for 6 or 7 follow-up events. This is true especially if your audience is local. The key is to prepare, go into the event, give the participants a skill, and then call them back, just like you would with friends. You would call them back to another dinner, another birthday, another something. That's the way to make sure that your events are full in the future. And this takes us to the third part of today's podcast, and that is, what kind of time framework should you consider? When I was growing up, one of my treats was something called gola. People in Italy would know this as granita. And it's basically a bunch of ice that's put together and it's soaked with some kind of sweet stuff, and then you suck on the sweet stuff and you're sucking on the ice. And the thing is that it's not ready. So you go to the vendor and he kind of crushes the ice and then he puts it together in this form of a ball of ice. And then he dips it in that sugar solution, and then you have to wait in line, and there is this whole sequence of things that have to unfold before you get your gola or your granita. And this is a totally different experience from just going to a store, putting in a coin in a dispenser, and then you get your ice cream. There is this waiting period with the gola that makes it more interesting, but also more frustrating. What I see repeatedly is that a lot of people have this resistance to start up, to do something like this, because it takes so much of your energy. You have to think, oh my goodness, I have to have an event, I have to have a venue, there are so many things that you have to do, right? And then suddenly you have to wait. And this is the part that doesn't come naturally to most people. They think, okay, I'm ready. I've had the event. I've announced it. I've done my poster. I've got my details together. Everything should be in place now. And it's like, nothing is in place. No, wait a second. Nothing is in place. Because the client is not ready when you are ready. The client needs that amount of time, and that's going to be 3 weeks, 6 weeks. We don't know. But what's going to happen is nothing is going to happen right now. Just because you have your poster, just because you have your venue, just because you have your stuff, doesn't mean that anything is going to happen. We have a pretty good reputation at Psychotactics, but when is our event being held? It's being held in April next year. So that's in Singapore and then in Brussels. Where are we right now? We're in October. Since when have we been talking about this event? Since September. So that's 3 months in this year and then 4 months next year. And you're getting a framework of planning, how long it takes for people to decide. Now, it's possible that we could be done within a week from the day that the sales page goes up and the announcement goes up. But we have been announcing this for a while. You've heard it on the podcast. If you're in 5000 BC, you've seen it there. If you're in the Psychotactics newsletter, you probably didn't hear of it yet, but you will. The point is that there is this waiting period. Just because you're ready doesn't mean that your client is going to be ready. And so there's this huge frustration that no one is cooperating with you. No one is supposed to cooperate with you. They have their own lives. They have their own thing. When I first had my event, I had been part of that networking group for 6 months or 7 months. So 20 people that showed up at that event, about half of them, 10, 12 of them were from the networking group. People that I had worked with for the past 6, 8 months. And then they brought some of their friends, and that's how we got 20 people. It wasn't magic. We were new in New Zealand. No one knew of us. So those 6 to 8 months were very critical. Now I get it. I'm not asking you to wait 6 to 8 months. But the point is, this is your first event. This is your trial. This is your dress rehearsal. Nothing usually goes as planned. There's chaos. There's stuff that goes wrong. If anything, you should hope that fewer people show up, that 1 or 2 people show up, at best. So that you get a chance to practice, that you get your chance to get used to the concept of giving information, of getting the testimonial. There's a lot less pressure. So the first thing that you've got to prepare yourself for is that people are not going to be ready when you're ready. The second thing is that you can't just sit around online. A lot of people go, oh, I put everything on Facebook. And what's supposed to happen on Facebook? I don't know. I have been to events where there have been Facebook ads, but I have been in that mindset to click on that ad and go to that event. And wait a second, I'm not suggesting that you have Facebook ads and that it's a guarantee that people come to your event. However, what I am saying is that you have to figure out half a dozen ways to get people to that event. We had to call people, we had to email them, we had to do a lot of work to get people to that event. And you're saying, well, that's a lot of work. Business is a lot of work. Nothing happens when you want it to happen. And so you've got to get people prepared in advance. And you can't just depend on, okay, I have this great poster, I have it on Facebook, now everyone has to show up. If anything, the opposite is true. The first event is going to be very poorly attended, or you would be surprised because there'll be too many people there, and then there's chaos anyway. There is no guarantee that anything will pan out the way it should or the way you think it should. And this doesn't mean that anyone is discouraging you, and you shouldn't discourage yourself. In the last episode, when we looked at Saatchi's Kitchen and we looked at Cook the Books and we look at their rooms when they're having their event, and it's like, wow, there are so many people here, they're paying so much for it. And you think, why isn't this happening to me? Well, that's how every business starts up. There's always this very small trickle of people that come in, and then it grows and it grows and grows. And if you continue to do this and you don't give up, then that's how your business is going to grow. Offline, it's going to take them online, and you're going to have this combination of offline and online, which is a very robust business. And that brings us to the end of this podcast. So what did we cover in this podcast? We covered 3 main things and a little bit more. So the first thing that we covered was where to get your clients. And we saw that some clients fall neatly into some group, like maybe coaches, and they meet at a specific time. And if you go and speak to them, then it's more likely that they're going to sign up to your event. And then sometimes it's not very clear, and you have to start off with the problem, which is, what problem are you solving? So, for instance, with the brain audit, the problem is one of hesitation about why clients don't buy, why they back away at the last minute. And you have to think, well, who's going to need this information? And then you get groups of people who need that information. And then you can start to think of all the people, all the groups, all of those people who are out there who would need that information. And this is how you figure out which groups could use your information. Sometimes it could be just nicely, neatly put in a kind of box, like Kelly Coulter has supply teachers, and she's only ever going to go after supply teachers. So that's different. But most of the time, whatever you're selling is going to go to different audiences, and you have to figure out what problem is it solving. And then you can find places online like Eventbrite or Event Finder, and it's a starting point. This is not a finish point. This is not a middle point. This is the starting point. Once you've got that, once you've got some people come to the event, be prepared to take or get their testimonials. Video is best, but if video intimidates you, well, then go to audio. If audio is still scary, well, get them to at least sign a little piece of paper. Not sign, but at least write on a piece of paper that they're okay for you to call them later. And then you can get a testimonial from them. And testimonials enable you to get people to the next event. And finally, what we're looking at is how to get people to come back. And you get them to come back not by giving them loads of information. You get them to come back by giving them the right piece of fish, the right reward. And if they can do 1, 2, or 3 things, they go back very confident. They don't go back overwhelmed. They don't go back wondering what did they learn. And they're keen to come back to learn that one little bit the next time. But that takes preparation, that takes strategy on your part. You have to go, okay, what are we going to do for the next 10 events? And it doesn't matter if they don't sign up for the next 10 events, but you have to go there prepared to sell the next 10 events, because it's a mindset as well for you. If you're thinking of how to get them for the next 10 events, you're going to do this event so much better. But just remember that clients are not ready to sign up when you're ready. So just putting out something on Facebook or just doing stuff like that, or just promoting and then hoping that everyone's going to turn up, it's not going to happen. So you have to really work it. And how long is it going to take? It's going to take a while. You can't afford to be discouraged, because that's what people do. They get discouraged, they stop, and then nothing happens. The people that succeed, well, they fail miserably for the first times, first 2 times, first 3 times, who knows? And then eventually something happens, and then another something happens, and this is what you call a success story. And sometime in the future, you can say, you know what, we had our first 3 events, no one came, now we have 5,000 people at our events. That makes a really good success story, doesn't it? And that brings us to the end of this podcast. What's the one thing that you can do today? The one thing that you can do today is make a list of the 10 things that are going to happen after your first event. What is that strategy? Do you have that strategy in place? How will you follow up? How will you get people to come back? What are the 10 things that you're going to cover? Maybe not 10 things, maybe 5, maybe 3. But going in there prepared to get the client back is what's going to keep them in the first place. This brings us to the end of this podcast. We'll come back and we'll find out what's happening in Psychotactics land. Whoa, that was a big break. I was recording at 5 o'clock in the morning, and then the whole day passed, and now it's 5 o'clock in the evening, which I find a better time to record anyway. It somehow seems like I have more energy at 5 o'clock in the evening than I do at 5 o'clock in the morning, these days at least. And, well, what's happening in Psychotactics land? We're going to be in Brisbane, Australia. I'm speaking at the We Are podcast. It's about pre-sale. Now, you've probably heard about pre-sale before. It's one of the more critical things that you have to do in a business because it's the same thing with the workshop, with the offline event. What's happening is there is this huge space in between you announcing something and then finally selling that something. One interesting thing to note is that you get a few sales at the start and then you get a huge blank space. And then you get something at the end. And a lot of people, they give up in that blank space. That's what I'm going to be speaking about in Australia. We get back, and after 3 weeks, we're off for our vacation, Sri Lanka, India, and that's pretty much 2017. 2018, however, has this workshop in Singapore, which is on the 12th, 13th, and 14th, and then in Brussels on the 18th, 19th, and 20th. And this is about a sales page. This is how to create a sales page. There was a time when I got so busy that it was very hard for me to create a sales page very quickly, and it was very frustrating. So Renuka would take a lot of the stuff and just put it together, stuff that I'd written before, and that's how we were creating our sales pages. But there is a system to this, and a sales page can be created in 3 days. And of course, there is no theory here. You come with your product, with your service to Brussels or to Singapore, and you leave with your sales page. There is no theory. And that's how we do it at Psychotactics. We don't promise more information. We give you the skill to do it so that you can do it over and over again. Ironically, we don't have a sales page up right now, and that's for a good reason. It's still in pre-sale mode. We have sold 3 seats in Brussels already without any sales page. But the sales page will be up soon enough, and you'll get the opportunity to go there and buy. There are going to be limited seats because there's no point in having too many people at a workshop. You really want them to work, you really want them to have fun, and there's no point in just filling up seats at a workshop. You really want people to go back with a skill. But this has been a long podcast. I'll sign off for now. That's me, Sean D'Souza. Join us in 5000 BC, and you'll find it's a great place to be. I'll say bye for now. Bye-bye.